So before you get started, you're going to want to understand your property type and your market. And I'm going to go through some things here so that way you can understand better like what I look for when I do things. But since you guys are coming to me with all different types of property types and states and territories and like houses and commercial properties and all that kind of stuff, you just got to kind of think or use ChatGPT to figure out what exactly do you need. Okay, so property types, you want to pull lists separately. Okay, so if you're going to do mobile home parks, only do mobile home parks first. You can pull five lists, one of mobile home parks, one of RV parks, one of storage, one of hotels, and one of warehouses. You know what I mean? You just don't want to put more than one property type in one list because it gets a little challenging, especially if you're training a virtual assistant to help you with things. You want to keep things separated so that way they just understand it better. So you want to understand what property type. That's the first thing. Okay. Once you have that, and you're going to want to also understand that mobile home parks could also be called trailer parks. Storage facilities could also be called self storage. You just want to keep that in mind, and you can always do a chat GPT prompt like, "Hey, I'm looking for mobile home parks, and I want to know more about what are the different names that I could expect." That way, when I'm searching them, I just understand them. Not too critical, guys. I'm just kind of speaking here more to the beginners that might not know what mobile home parks are, I guess. Okay, so the next thing you want to know is your market. Okay, this is going to be dependent on your property type. So if you're looking for warehouses, you're going to want your market to just be one major place like Billings, Bozeman, and different cities like that and the surrounding markets. Okay, but if you're looking for mobile home parks, you might want to look for the whole entire state. You can always get more niche later. Just because you pull data in a market doesn't mean that you have to do that market, but you are going to want to break it down into counties and cities. So, depending on whether you're doing a small area like Atlanta, Georgia, or you've decided to do everything in the southeast here with 5 or 8 different states, you're going to want to understand what are the counties and what are the cities, because you're going to need that information for pulling bulk data. Okay, and if we're pulling the list for you and you've decided to just go with us to build your whole list out, that way you don't have to do anything. That's stuff that we do, and that's stuff that kind of takes the longest sometimes, is deciding what the market is going to be and what cities and counties are we going to spend time getting data in. Okay, so a really good way to figure out what counties you need is just by, and you'll understand this more as we get into pulling the bulk data. For example, in PropStream, it only accepts counties really, so you need things in counties. Okay, so if I was looking for hotels in Tennessee, and I only wanted hotels that have the county has a population over 50,000, then you can just search on Google counties by population state. Just change the state name to what you want. It's usually one of the first ones. Will provide you with a list where you can easily see here what the counties are. Okay, so you see all the counties here. And don't do Tennessee if you don't want Tennessee. Okay, but you can just copy this. Control C. I'm just going to make a new sheet here. Okay, Control V for paste, and it's just going to come up like all right here. Okay, so we have the county list now. That's how easy it is. The city is going to be a little more challenging, and what you can do is you can use Google or you can use ChatGPT. I like getting in the habit of using ChatGPT, but I'm not going to introduce that until another course, which that way you can, start learning it on your own pace rather than getting too confused at once. Okay, so let's say we need all of the cities that we're going to do in, I don't know, let's do Jefferson County, Tennessee. We can do Tennessee list of cities. And the reason you need the cities is because, okay, excuse me. The reason you need the cities is because you are going to want them if you use Outscraper to get like data later in another video, you'll see. But I just want to show you how to get the list of towns and cities. Just do it with Google. It's going to be a lot easier. And these are the cities within this county. And then just get that list together, copy and paste it, put it on a spreadsheet so you have it. And that way you know your counties, your cities, your property types. And that way when either you don't get too confused and off track, but if you hire a virtual assistant or you're working with someone else, you're going to want that list of counties and cities, and it's best if it's already done. So that's how you identify your target market and your property. Keep in mind, in order to get a hot list, you're going to want, 5 or 10,000 plus properties on your list, because out of 10,000 properties, maybe only 2,000 are non-LLCs, maybe only 500 are over 80 and deceased, and maybe only 100 are hot properties. You know what I mean? So you're going to figure out those ratios as you go along. I would say, since data is so cheap, I mean, on Outscraper, like 10,000 properties is, I think like $10 or $20 or something. You know what I mean? So it's going to be really cheap to get the data. If you're doing mobile homes parks, for example, like, I suggest doing multiple states. If you're doing warehouses or houses, I suggest doing the city itself and the suburbs of the city. I like to, if I'm going and doing commercial properties in Kansas City, what I like to do is, like, this interstate that goes around it, I like to just draw like an imaginary circle around the city and find out, like, I search on Google, what county is Kansas City in? And then what counties are around Kansas City? And I'll get like all those counties around it, right? And then let's say I want to do like St. Louis too. Then I'm like, what county is St. Louis in? What counties are around St. Louis? And I get those. And then I get the populations. I make sure I'm not doing the middle of nowhere, like all that stuff. If you're in my other courses and, my group mentorships and stuff, you get like tons of information on that. I'm keeping it light here because you probably already know what your market is. But you want to have that decided so that way you go into this with less confusion.